Hey there. Welcome to the Eurostep, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, proudly a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and GSPN. I'm one of your hosts, Ti Windisch, here with my guy. It was fun recording a couple Bucks pods with Jordan, Eurostep, and winning 6 on this feed last week, but so happy to be back with the one, the only, Rohan Katti. Rohan, how's it going? Merry Christmas, happy holidays, my friend.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everyone out there. It's weird. I think this is the longest stretch I've been not on a pod since I started.
Yeah.
It's been, what was the last one? December 12th?
Wow.
That's
Has it really
ridiculous.
been that long?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I'm glad you still can make noises with your mouth and thus do the podcast. I'm glad that wasn't forgotten in this time.
It's there's like an itch I have. One, I had something and then scheduling issues, but no, we're back. I have an itch. I'm ready to talk Milwaukee Bucks basketball.
When you're at family gatherings, do people talk Bucks to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's fun, isn't it?
Everyone talks Bucks to me.
It's kind of fun. I kind of like it because I don't mind small talk. There's an agenda against small talk. There's a time and place for small talk. I don't need to. There's edgy people online are like, small talk is the worst. If I bump into someone I kind of know at the grocery store, we don't need to talk about Elon Musk. We can talk about the weather. It's fine. It's fine. But I do like when you're at gatherings with people you kind of know, right? Or family you don't talk to all the time. Having Bucks talk built in, I think it's great. I love it. Sports.
Yeah, it's so great. Yeah, sports are the best. Sports bring people together. I love sports.
And weather talk. But speaking of sports, stick up for weather talk. It's the Midwestern in me. The Milwaukee Bucks, 4 of their last 6 games, they kind of got dusted. I don't know if everyone would say the word blowout about all 4. They end up losing to the Cavs by 8 points, although it looked much worse than that until the fourth quarter. But obviously this began this recent tough stretch. A 142-101 loss to Memphis. Good wins against Utah and New Orleans. Those were good wins. Well, on the road in New Orleans, that one especially. In Cleveland, lose by 8. In Brooklyn, lose by 18 to the Nets. And the Nets just looked better, most of the game.
And the Nets just look great in general.
Yeah, they beat a bunch of bad teams in the Bucks who have kind of been playing like a bad team, but they are taking care of business, no question. And then you give up 139 to Boston. The first half of this game I thought was pretty good. The Bucks were losing, but it was not.
It was a 1-point game at half.
Oh, it was a 1-point game. That's right. Yeah. That's right. They pulled it even closer at half. And then the third quarter and fourth quarter, Boston puts it away. 139-118. This was a tough stretch of the schedule. A lot of road games, some good teams I just listed. But still, the Bucks got punked in 4 of these 6 games. We're really not used to seeing that. So I think the question here is obvious, Rohan. How concerned should we be that 3 games in a row and 4 out of the last 6, the Bucks just weren't competitive for all or most of the game?
Here's the thing. So we set up top. It's the holiday season, Imagine
holiday season.
You're going to work. It's the week of Christmas, New Year's. A lot of people are taking off. How much are you putting in at the office? And I'm not asking you personally. Don't say that. But how hard are you working? Can you attribute it to that? Obviously not.
No, I was going to say.
No, I was just joking. But there is some level of concern here. Like you mentioned, it was a tough stretch of the schedule. You play 4 road games against 4 teams who think they can win their conference. The Pelicans think they can win the West. Cleveland thinks they can win the East. Brooklyn thinks they can win the East. Boston thinks they can win the East. And these are all teams who take the Bucks very seriously. Because the Bucks, obviously they were a top seed last year, won the title the season before. They're a formidable threat in the entire NBA. Most people consider them one of the top 2 teams in the entire NBA, along with Boston. They get up for these games. We know this. Everyone gets up against the Bucks. My level of concern is that the Bucks are not getting up for other teams.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mentioned, these teams think they should be able to win the conference, so they're going to get up for the Bucks. The Bucks should be getting up for these teams because they should think they can win the conference. Obviously the New Orleans win was a good win. Cleveland come out so lax. If you didn't get out to that really, really slow start, you're probably winning that game based on what Giannis did in the second half.
And I'll say that game, real quick, the Memphis game, I was like, okay, Memphis punched them in the mouth. They gave up. Whatever. It's a lot of road games. Like Memphis, there's a Taylor Jenkins thing.
Probably getting some barbecue.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not a rivalry, right? Like there's not, they haven't met in the playoffs, whatever else. And then Cleveland, they came back late, and it was like, you know what? They beat the Cavs twice without Jared Allen, who turns out makes a big difference. And I was like, okay, they beat them twice already. They haven't met in the playoffs either. That's fine. The games you're going to get to, though, Brooklyn and Boston, there can be no excuse for not seeing like a top-tier performance against those teams. We all still hear about Kevin Durant and his floppy-ass shoes, and obviously we know what happened with Boston 7 months ago. Like, that should still be fresh.
Yeah, and even the players were talking about it. Like Bobby Portis was talking about it. Like I think it was mentioned on the ESPN broadcast for the Christmas Day game against Boston. Like, oh yeah, Bobby Portis is saying, yeah, we're not forgetting about these things. Are you sure about that? Are you so caught up in the memory of last season's playoff that you decided to play like that? Like normally you'd think you'd improve upon that, but you're right. They should absolutely be fresh. And like, obviously, I'm not like in full-on panic mode, right? It is December. I cannot be in full-on panic mode. We have to remember that, it's a long regular season. These things happen. You're going to go through your tough stretches. You're going to play against a bunch of good teams who have something to prove early on, who are still chasing things. Like, for example, like Boston. I'm not saying this is their motivation, but this is what's happening. Like Jason Tatum chasing an MVP award. Hasn't won that before. You see Brooklyn, Kevin Durant, he's probably he's chasing whatever KD chases. Ben Simmons is trying to he's a good tweeter though.
Yeah.
He's trying to prove that he belongs. Like Cleveland's trying to assert themselves like, hey, we belong in this conversation. Like we've never been at the top. We need to show we belong at the top. Same goes with New Orleans. The Bucks don't have those things to prove. We know they've been to the mountaintop. Giannis has accomplished like every single individual award that you can. Except for like what? I don't know.
Didn't get rookie of the year. That one's going to be hard.
Year.
That one's going to be hard now.
Clutch player of the year.
Oh Christ.
I think SGA's got that one locked up already. But like obviously those things aren't going to matter to the Bucks in December while it's going to matter to these teams in December, right? So that's another potential reason why I'm saying like I'm not full on panic mode yet.
Yeah.
But you should there should be a little bit of a concern level here. Because you're seeing the Bucks for 3 games in a row getting punked by good teams. And they don't look like this is going to sound very like vague to say, but they don't look like a championship contender right now.
No. And I think, we can talk about all this off-court stuff and theories and everything. And I still think we didn't see the right level of energy, especially I would say Cleveland. Memphis, I'm just like, it sucks that happened. They clearly were like, yeah, whatever. We're going to let this. You guys want this really bad. We don't care that much. Go ahead. Like, that was the Memphis game. The Cleveland game was disappointing. They didn't try hard enough. I thought Brooklyn and Boston, the reason I'm not panicking, but certainly concerned, and like now I'm looking up the Jordan Clarkson trade scenarios again. And I know they gave up 140 to Boston and however much to Brooklyn. I still watch the games and think bad offense is feeding into a lot of that scoring for the other team. The other teams get in rhythm. They're getting transition because of all the turnovers. They actually only had 15 against Boston, but I think they had 18 against the Nets. And I just look at this and you see the guys that you can rely on every game. Drew had, I think, like 16 and then 23. He wasn't great against he had 18 against Brooklyn. He wasn't great, but we know what Drew's going to do. Maybe the efficiency's not there. He's probably going to be around 20 points and like 5 to 8 assists, which is where he was. Giannis has been struggling a little bit, but he's 26 points, then 27 points. Brook Lopez came through, I'd say, in both games. He had 23 against Brooklyn and 16 against Boston. 7 for 8 from the field. Brook was there. Those are the 3 guys we know we can rely on. Pat Connaughton, 15 against Boston in a start. We'll get to more Pat later. And he had 6 against Brooklyn, so not great. Bobby Portis, and that's like the line, I think, of like, I guess, every game trust. Where I'm at right now, more or less. And we get to Bobby Portis, who had a good game against Brooklyn, 10 points, 4 points against Boston, 23 minutes. Not good enough. Grayson Allen, 3 points against Brooklyn in 24 minutes. Doesn't shoot. I don't know why. He stopped shooting the ball. 8 points in 29 minutes. Better. Not good enough. Minus 17. Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles hit some threes against Boston. Scored 11 points. Still minus 12. Not seeing the defense.
He had 11 points in that game?
Yep. Hit a couple threes.
2 threes, free throws.
Three throws, yeah. No assists and 3 turnovers in that game. And he had 2 assists and no turnovers against Brooklyn, but he missed all 4 of his shots. It's not been there. Now, I know why they play him. They want to see what's there. So far, the answer is nothing. Javon Carter.
And it's been 3 games also.
It's been
or 4
3
games,
still?
4 games.
I think it's been 4 now,
4,
right?
4.
Yeah. 21% from the field, 17% from 3. 1 turnover per game, or 1 assist per game, 2 turnovers per game. It's been really bad. I'm not saying this is, the peak of what he'll be this year. But these 4 games have been horrendous.
It's not trending in the right direction.
No, it's been really bad, and I don't say that lightly. Horrendous, like it's been horrible. So they're kind of tanking, and I think that has a lot to do with the results in these 4 games. Quite honestly, or 3 of the 4, they won the first game he played, where he did not do much either. Javon Carter, who I like, is just totally out of rhythm. 2 for 10 against Brooklyn, and then 3 for 5, a little better against Boston. Actually looked better, but just didn't matter enough. The Brooklyn game, though, a start for him was really rough. Wes Matthews, he's there. He didn't play against Brooklyn, but then in Boston, I think Bud got a little spooked about playing Marjon against the Celtics. Don't think that was the right call. Marjon had 5 in 3 minutes. Wes had 2 in 15 minutes. Like, Marjon, I think we need to see some more. He's been promising. But I just go through all these guys to say the offense outside of the big 3 that you would expect and sort of Pat, it's just not there. And they just don't have anything consistent. And Giannis is just working so damn hard. Thankfully, the jumper started to fall again. But I just think, it's going to sound like an excuse or a broken record or something. This is the Khris Middleton absence. Like, they really need him.
And I feel like it's kind of, we forgot to mention, Khris Middleton didn't play any of these games where he's where the Bucks have been blown out. But unfortunately, that's something the Bucks have had to be used to this entire season, considering he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games this season.
Yep. And 1.5 playoff games. So basically like 11 games in 7 months.
8 months. Yeah.
8 months.
So it's not great. Obviously, like, this team is missing its second best player. We can't get all caught up in that and say, like, oh, there should be reason for concern, reason for panic because the Bucks are getting blown out. Again, they still don't have Khris Middleton.
But I think,
however,
that is my reason. That's the real reason I have for concern.
Yes. Is that Khris Middleton is still dealing with injuries, and it's a new injury every time.
And I know Bud gave a nice sounding update. Oh, he's practicing, and we saw him shooting around. Eric Name posted a video, and this was on Tuesday, I think. We're recording this on Wednesday during the day. They play the Bulls tonight. Certainly hope they win, but it's not going to erase all concerns. If they look terrible in that game, though, it's going to be a new level of. It's unacceptable.
Just take what we say here and just multiply it by like 3.
Yeah, it's unacceptable to lose to the Bulls in any circumstance, but especially with these recent results, we need to see a team. They have an extra off day now. Chicago's not a home game, but pretty damn close. We need to see a much better game. We should see a blowout, quite honestly, with the way the Bulls are playing. But the practice update was nice. The clip was nice. He went from doubtful to out, though, on the injury report with an extra day off. So, I don't know what it is. Of course, the Debbie Downers of the world are already saying, oh, he's going to be having surgery in a week, or we're not going to see him until late Jan. Who knows? But it's just concerning that he's back for a handful of games and then a new injury, multiple games, more than a week or 2 now, and doesn't seem, he's moving around, but he's not imminently returning. Like, we don't have an update on when he's going to be back again. They clearly don't have the offensive juice to beat good teams without him reliably.
Yeah, they really don't. And it's been very evident when you're playing these good teams, like these good defenses. Like Brooklyn, for all that we talk about it, has been playing good defense. They've been a good defensive team during their winning streak. Boston already a great defense. Cleveland, great defense. Like the Pelicans, even good defense. When you're playing these good half-court defenses, and being like the half-court offense has always been something that's played the Bucks ever, like forever, during the Giannis era, during the Bud era, whatever you want to say. Half-court offense has always been a little bit of a struggle. But that struggle is being put on a freaking pedestal in these games. Like, there is a light just shining down on that issue during these games because you're seeing, yeah, Giannis is going to be Giannis. But without Khris Middleton, without another reliable secondary scoring option, sorry, Drew Holiday, they're just going to load up on Giannis and say, oh, yeah, Drew Holiday, go beat us. Grayson Allen, go beat us. Brook Lopez, go beat us. And that's not going to work in the playoffs. As much as I love those guys, that's not their game.
It's going to work 3 times out of 7, which is the issue, right? Like, we're going to get some games where, oh, yeah, Grayson had 18 and 4 assists. He looked great. And then there's going to be some games where he has 3 points and shoots the ball twice. Like, that's... And
also, Giannis is good enough where even if you send the whole team at him, he'll still dominate.
Yeah, but it's not reliable. So I do think we're at a point now. And the same with Bobby Portis, a guy who we couldn't stop praising for how he played for a couple of weeks there. He's not a star player. He's a role player. And we saw that because these last 2 games, his impact, and more than that, there's been a couple more recently too. The 3 not falling has really taken away from what he's able to do. He hasn't gotten comfortable in the post. He's gotten a little bit, taken advantage of and not made plays and lost some minutes even. So I think they were held up for a while by Grayson, Javon Carter, Bobby Portis having these great runs. But, on the road, we see those things less. And against good teams, we tend to see those things less. And that's when not having Khris, I think, really shows the most. I think the Bucks should be poking around some more offense at the trade deadline. Like, I would still like a big wing. That's fine. I'm still not going to pencil in Marjan for doing too much. Like,
Boss Man 99.
If you want to get Boss Man 99, sure. Can we get some more offense? Because I think at this point, as much as it hurts to say it, you do need better Khris Middleton insurance. It's not there. I just don't think we can rely on Marjan yet. And even if, you trust the skill set we've seen, he's not going to go get you.
He's not a shot
points,
creator.
Yeah, and a couple assists a game like Jordan Clarkson, whoever else. Not yet, exactly. But you need it now. I think it's just been put on display that there's not enough. As much as you, especially, and I like Grayson Allen, he's not that guy that's going to do that every night. You need someone who you can rely on more because they haven't been able to rely on Khris for the last several months, most of this year. And it sucks to say. We love Khris. We'd love to see Khris healthy. We just haven't. And it's a huge problem, and it's costing the Bucks.
And even if, knock on wood, we get fully healthy Khris Middleton back, you still, even if you go poke around and get some more offense, that's only going to help your team.
Yeah.
Even with Khris Middleton, this team has struggled with half-court offense, like I mentioned. So it's like, if you want to find an obvious glaring hole weakness on this Bucks team, it is shot creation, it is offense. So if you want to go improve that, sure, for Khris Middleton insurance, sure. But even with Khris Middleton, you could use a little bit of that improvement.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think that's more or less what we've learned. And I think a little bit less confident in the depth as well. I still think everything's going to look much, much better with Khris or with some other offensive creator out there.
And once Joe Ingles gets into a rhythm, you get Marjan getting into a rhythm.
Maybe on the first one.
You see Wes. I mean, how am I the one who's not doing? Listen, I don't want to be right, everyone. For everyone wondering, he's just hating on Joe Ingles because he had that take.
No, because you're not. I want to be
Ingles. I know, but also I'm saying I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right. I'm fine admitting when I'm wrong, and I hope to be wrong here, but I haven't been proven wrong yet.
No. I mean, it's just I was optimistic about him, and I understand there's some rust. There's an acclimation process.
It's been 4 games.
Yeah, 4 awful games.
It's been bad.
There's a level of okay, he's still figuring things out that I think would be yeah, I get it. That's not been this. He's just out there. He's made 2 nice passes. He's hit a couple of threes. If that continues, maybe you'll see the case more. I mean, and I understand. I'm not saying you bench him forever. They want to see what they have and see what he can be this season. I totally get that. They are hurting badly by not playing George Hill and by playing Joe Ingles. Hill was much better. And I think
what
we know
a wild sentence to say.
He was good, man.
I know. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it's just imagine telling us that in the summer.
I mean, even a month ago. But
Yeah.
I mean, Javon Carter's got to continue having good outings, or I think he might fall into Hill getting some of those minutes because Hill looked just steadier and more consistent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For sure. It's like, but here's the thing though, because we are getting close to the trade deadline talk, because that's going to be in like a month and a half-ish.
Not even. Yeah, it's like Feb 9 this year. I think it's early.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Shoot. So like a month and like 2 weeks.
A month and a week and a half or 2 weeks. Yeah.
So you mentioned up top about like Jordan Clarkson. Like I'm just trying to like, this is obviously preliminary. We'll do full in-depth trade deadline analysis as it approaches. But like is that the type of player you want to target? Like if you want to get I love how we've come full circle on this. We went Jordan Clarkson.
I know. We did.
Then we went Boss Man.
Yeah.
And now we're going back to Jordan Clarkson.
Well, I mean, it changes how you feel when you see the team play, right? And that's why deals usually don't get made until they have to be, because all the teams want to be like, what do we actually need?
Russell Westbrook.
No.
He's been good. I'm kidding, obviously, but he's been decent.
I would like Clarkson more than Boss Man again at this point.
I think I might be there too.
And I think I don't know, it might be a contract. It's a contract year for him, probably as a player option. He's going to decline. But 20 points and 4.5 assists per game, shooting 50% from 2. The 3 has fallen off like I kind of expected. Honestly, I can live with the 3 falling off a little bit. Like, I don't even care. If he doesn't close, that's fine. Talking about a 20 point per game guy who can create his own shot. Like, imagine if some of these minutes where we see these crazy lineups where sometimes with Drew, they get crazy too, but without Drew and Giannis, and it's Jordan Clarkson out there operating and getting guys moving around him like they should. Like, I think that changes your team entirely, not to mention the minutes with him and Giannis. Like, that could be really fun as well. So I don't want someone, I want someone who's going to pass too. I think that's important. Like, I don't want just a scorer. I had Gary Trent Jr. floated to me. Ooh. I'm good. I
wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad at it. No. I mean, he's had a tough year.
Yeah.
But
I'm good. I don't want to trade with Masai. I know people say that about Ainge too, and the Jazz down to 9th in the West now. Maybe it's different. I didn't look today, but they've fallen off a bit. They're now in play-in range. I think the start was fun, but I think we all probably understood to some level the Lauri Markkanen, Kelly Olynyk front court probably not really going to get you a home court in the first round seed in the West. So I feel like we are going to see some more Jazz trades at some point, and I think it's going to cost maybe even that 2029 first, but I don't know. That kind of offense is really valuable to any team, and certainly would be to the Bucks.
For sure. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, just offense is fine. You have enough defensive stalwarts on your roster where you don't have to be super, super worried about like, oh my goodness. I mean, it depends on what you trade, but you don't have to be worried about like, oh, we're just going to be an offense first team versus a defense first team, because at this team's core, they're always going to be a defense first team. That's who they are. That's their identity. And that's how they're going to play, regardless of who's on the roster. But it helps that the roster is full of great defenders. But you're still going to be able to have guys to lean on. Like, you're not trading Drew. You're not trading Brooke. You're not trading Giannis. You're not trading those guys. So you're always going to have those guys to rely on.
Just didn't include Khris there.
A defensive stalwart.
Oh, I just thought it was a list of guys. He looked good on defense when he played.
He does. He has looked good on defense when he's played, but I still wouldn't consider him a defensive stalwart.
What are the chances as a Khris trade this season?
Very low, because this is the lowest value he's ever going to have.
I'm not saying 0 either, though, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I'm not saying 0 either, but I doubt it. I very much doubt it, because it's like if you're trying to maximize a Khris Middleton return, like, one, it would have been this summer.
Well,
I mean, it would have, considering it was just wrist surgery at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, is it just wrist surgery?
I mean, the offhand wrist surgery is not like insane.
I mean, I guess I kept him out quite a while, but I know there's conditioning in there.
Yeah. But also he's dealing with all these nagging injuries now. And one, I don't think they need to trade Khris right now.
As long as they feel good about his health.
Yes.
Relatively good. It's hard to feel that good about it.
Khris's jersey's going up no matter what. I'll say that. That's all I'll say. One thing, did you have any other trade sort of thing you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. I certainly think they're going to be active, though. We've gotten that question a couple of times. Will they make a move? I don't know. Maybe the roster's good enough.
Horst is always active.
Yeah.
Horst is always active.
But I did wonder, the continuity and everything, I think there's going to be a move.
Yeah. I mean, like, what's this continuity really doing? Like, Wes Matthews isn't playing. Serge Ibaka isn't playing. I mean, Wes Matthews is playing a little bit, and it's not going well. It's not going well at all.
No.
I love you, Wes, but
I was going to say, the wing defense.
Teach Marjan.
The wing defense is not as secure as we thought it was heading into the season.
Yeah, because it's like I did not think we were going to predict this much of a fall off from Wes.
Yeah.
Because he was an absolute stud last year defensively. And
he has not been stopping guys this season.
No.
But it's regular season, but he has not been stopping guys.
Yes. And even if it is just regular season, you're saving him. Maybe save him a little more. Like for these games.
That's so scary, though, if you're like, yeah, he wasn't good all season, but we know he's going to be good now. Maybe, if anyone could do it, it's Wes, but
yeah, always believe in Wes. But speaking of defense, that is one thing I'm very concerned about.
Okay.
So one thing you mentioned, like, we've been seeing these blowouts. The defense hasn't looked the same at all. Like, we're seeing them give up 142 points to Memphis. We're seeing them give up, how much did they give up? Like a lot. 119 to the Pelicans, like 139 to Boston, a team that they did shoot the lights out in that game, but had been struggling to find an offensive rhythm whatsoever. You're starting to see a little bit more. I don't think like you and Jordan touched on this a little bit, but we're seeing a little bit more of a regression back to normal defense, like the core defense from previous years, rather than sticking with their non-overhelping scheme from the beginning of the season. We're starting to see a little bit getting back into old habits, and I'm starting to get a little concerned here, Ty. Like there was a play in the Boston game where Drew, I think, was trying to contain Derek White, and Drew was containing Derek White on a drive, like he had the shot blocked, but Brook like flies in from the corner just to try and deter the shot more, and Derek White's like, okay, I don't have a layup here because Drew's smothering me. But what I do have now is a wide open Al Horford in the corner for three. And it's just like, where are these old habits coming from again? Like, Brook Lopez is a guy who's going to be a very, very smart defender. Again, he's still probably the leader in Defensive Player of the Year, up there with Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, he's still up there. And you're still seeing these teams make these mistakes again and again, game after game. And that's becoming a trend that's been really concerning to me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it kind of started when more players started returning, like Pat Connaughton, and then you integrate Jingles as well. And it's been sloppy. It's not been what was advertised and what we saw earlier in the season. And I really hope that these are bumps in the road and not an indication that the Bucks aren't sticking with this 3-point defense. That, what was a focus starting the first day of camp, I think we learned in a story in SI talking to Brook Lopez. I think they need to play that way. So I would agree. It's like, just trust the defenders. We've said this a million times on this podcast over the years. Trust your defenders, because they've always had great defenders and they've always sent help that they don't need to send most of the time.
Yeah, it's like trust your guys to play well. And what's bothered me about, like, I think that's a good point. I didn't really consider that. And where it's like you see these guys coming back, and it's like Pat Connaughton, he hasn't played in this like new defense very much. And you see him coming back, and he's looked good. He's looked good in these last few games. He's looked good, especially as a starter against Boston. Maybe that's just Boston Pat. We know that in revenge games and all that. But it's like Toronto Thon. We got Boston Pat.
Oh my God. You had to work Thon Maker into this somehow, didn't you?
always, Ty. I still believe. But you're starting to see Pat come back, and it's like, okay, maybe we're seeing a little bit of a jumpiness from Pat. Yeah. Jingles, sure, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He hasn't played for this team more than 4 games. But just like,
and Khris as well. Khris was the other guy who came back and was kind of had to get used to it. Khris especially.
But Khris looked good. Khris looked good though. Individual defense, like team defense was still like a little bit. Are you going to get lost sometimes? But you just see these guys getting lost. You see them conceding like easy switches. Like against Boston, it was ridiculous. Yeah. Like they had no resistance on switches whatsoever. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of games 1 and 2 of the finals. where they were just like lazy switching Bobby Portis onto like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, like no resistance whatsoever.
Yep.
And just doing that, it's like, okay, if you're gonna switch, like switching should be something that you're forced to do, not something you give up intentionally.
Yeah, those are annoying when it's like the saw. It's not even a screen. It's just like a.
It's like a guy. He just stands. He just walks up. Yeah,
they're like, oh, okay, let's switch.
Yeah, exactly. You saw a lot of that against Boston, and that really bothered me. Like, you're seeing these old habits rear their ugly head. And it's just like, okay, does this team need to get focused? Do they need to? Are they actually like being coached to do this? Again, we can't answer that question.
Yeah,
but something needs to change.
Yeah, and I will say one last thing, I guess, again, another excuse or whatever. This was the hell stretch of the schedule where they played every other day, most of them on the road for most of December. So this was not like realistically we expected them to go 9-1 in their last 10 or anything, but it's just the manner they lost a couple of these games has been concerning. So I think the defense is a good point as well. We focus a lot on offense because I think it just looks so bad a lot of the time, especially these turnovers, the live ball ones. But defense needs to be better. They just need to be better all together, both sides. My one thing to focus on, you brought it up actually, starter Pat. I'm here for it. I just think whether Khris is back, when he's not back, we've been overthinking this. Pat is the 5th best player on the team. Pat should start, even though he's not, is he the 5th best offensive player? Maybe not. 5th best defensive player? Maybe not. Overall, the sum of the parts and how much you just trust him to, even with some of the defensive foibles he and the other Bucks have committed, I think he should just be out there. So you mentioned starting against Boston. I don't know if you saw this, but I pulled the averages across all 31 of his Bucks starts the other day.
Okay, let me hear it. 30
regular season, 1 playoff. Most of them were last season, but it's at least 2 every year, I think, that he started. So in 28.8 minutes per start, he averages 10.8 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 1.7 assists to 0.6 turnovers. So almost a 3-to-1 assist to turnover, even though he doesn't get too many assists. So 10, 4.5, and nearly 2 assists. 28.8 minutes, 69.7% from 2, 39.3% from 3, 90% from free throw is starter Pat's averages in that time. So I think the field goal is probably a little under 50 because I think it's more 3s than 2s. But like flirting with 50, 40, 90, 10, 4.5, nearly 2 assists per game. Why not?
It's really good.
Why are we not just doing this?
I mean, I think we've always conceded that Pat is like the perfect guy within like the core 4 guys. He's the guy to be there. And we've always said, like, hey, he's probably going to be closing a lot of games. I don't think we've been way off the mark there. But it's like it's to a point where it's like, how else do you get other guys involved? I think that's been the concession. Like, if you get Grayson going early, it's like you're going to save that, and it's like if you don't play him in the second half because you're playing a lot more Pat, that's a desirable outcome. Same with like Javon Carter. Same with like Marjan. Like, you get these guys going early in the first half before they can get targeted potentially. And then you go and you lean more on Pat in the second half and close with Pat. I think that's been the idea. But I'm getting convinced. I'm getting convinced about Pat being a starter because it's like you mentioned, he's the best guy out of these options to start. Like, if you want to talk Javon, you want to talk Grayson, you want to talk Marjan, I think those are the only realistic options.
Bobby, I guess.
Bobby, yeah. He's the best fit. He might not be the best player. I still might concede that Bobby's a better player.
I would take Pat in that, to be honest with you.
Potentially. Bobby there's a debate.
Bobby has more A+ skills. I think Pat's the better player all around.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I'm not going to be upset with that take or anything.
Yeah.
But Pat's he's the obvious clear fit. He's a guy who can switch. He can play multiple positions offensively and defensively. Very versatile player, great shooter, great team defender, smart defender when he's not jumping out of his shoes. And it's such a good fit. He's always been such a good fit. The only question that's arisen over his tenure in Milwaukee is first off, it was the shooting. Is he going to be a cold shooter? That's why he would go through these streaks of being like a really hot shooter, really cold shooter. That sort of subsided. He became more consistent. He was a little bit erratic on the defensive end. Like I mentioned, jumping out of his shoes. He's going to be jumping at every pump fake. He's going to be getting out of position, gambling for steals. Maybe since that subsided, maybe that was just Dante rubbing off on him. Because now that he's gone, he doesn't do that anymore. It's like, wow, that's wild. So that concern has sort of been mitigated. And now you see Pat as sort of this perfect role player for this Bucks team. He'd be a perfect role player on any team, but especially with this Bucks team. He knows how to play with Giannis. He knows how to play off of Giannis and Khris. And he knows how to just be a good defender, good team player, knows where everyone's going to be, knows how to get these other guys involved. We've seen him be like a ball handler at times. Once he's like the outlet, we've seen him be a slasher too, great cutter, great off-ball mover. Good passer. He's the guy.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's like, okay, let's look at specifically like the cases I've seen against Pat, right? So one, as you mentioned, like is that going to be bad for Grayson or for Javon? Quite honestly, I mean, that's unfortunate if it is. What's best for the Milwaukee Bucks? Why are we making lineup decisions based on one guy, right? Like, I want the team to be good. And I think the team is better if Pat starts because he adds more than the other two guys. I think, if Grayson Allen at this point can't figure out how to be an effective bench scorer,
just shoot Grayson. Let me go on a little bit of a tangent. Just shoot the damn ball, Grayson Allen.
Yep.
Like, guys are going under screens and you hesitate for a split second. That's not what you're out there to do. Nope. I'm sorry, son. I adopted you on the last playback. But like, what are you doing out there? I'm gonna make an air video about this in the next few days. But like, you see these guys like give Grayson like a split second of daylight. That's when you operate. That's what you're out there to do. Yeah. Take that three. Make the defenses respect you instead of hesitating for a second and then going on a drive. And to his credit, the drives have been looking so much better. They've been looking a lot cleaner.
60% of them.
Yes, he's been finishing. Like, he had a thunderous dunk. He actually did that against Boston. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, he actually tried it after going completely awry in the Cavs game. He actually connected on it. He had his Tony Snell moment, and it just like he's gotten better at that over the course of the season. Earlier in the season, his passes were way off. His decision making was way off. Now he's seeing guys earlier. He's recognizing guys earlier. He's making correct passes. His drives are looking better. Grayson Allen, I'm so proud of you that those are better. But you're a great shooter, and that's what you're out there to do. Shoot the ball. Drive should be a secondary outlet. That should be you attacking closeouts. That should not be you having to mess up after. Like, that should not be what you need to do after you gave up the daylight that the defense gave you. Because the defense right now, they're recognizing that you're not shooting the ball. They'll give you that second of daylight because they know they can recover.
Yeah.
Make them pay for that. Make them pay, Grayson.
That's literally, like, offensively, I think that's the case for Pat versus Grayson and Javon Carter. There was a play, especially Pat. Yeah. There was a play in the Boston game. I think it was late third quarter. I can't remember exactly. But you see Grayson sort of like get to the top of the key, come off a curl, and he has a split second of daylight, and he's like, okay, I'm not shooting the ball. I'm going to pump fake here. And even though the defender's not there yet. Yeah.
And then he gives up the ball, goes to the corner. Pat comes off a curl in the middle, just shoots. Yep. And I was like, Grayson, look what Pat's doing and do that.
It's literally,
it was the same play. I was like, I hope Grayson is looking at the play. It's like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, it's like, Brooke and sometimes Pat can get some grief. Like Pat, when he first came back, was playing the way Pat plays and shooting. And he was cold. He hadn't gotten his shot yet. And you've seen some like, Brooke and Pat just let go all the time. That's literally what the Bucks want them to do. That is the point. And that is far less frustrating to me to have one of those guys who we know can shoot. Brooke can be tenuous. This year, more often than not, though, he's been a good shooter. Those guys shooting open looks is why they are out there on offense. I mean, Brooke can do some other stuff, whatever. But like when you're around Giannis and Drew, and mostly Giannis, you just have to do that. And when you don't do that, that's when, like, I think the offense can be better even without Khris than it's been. But I think there's so many possessions in these games where one of Grayson or Javon, those are the two worst defenders, they're just open and they just don't capitalize. I think to his credit, the last couple of games, Javon's been a little better. It's here and there, but they both just have these spells where they're like, oh, I caught the ball and I only have 6 feet of space. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to drive into somebody and reset the offense. And like, you can't waste those advantages you get on offense. You need to take advantage of those. And that's why there's just like not enough decisiveness lately. And I think it's really costing the Bucks. So I think you get Pat out there to start. And if Giannis is opening up these looks, even if not all the shots fall, we know that they're going to go up. And that's what we need. And I think Bobby Portis too, I think he's been a little less hesitant to shoot. The problem is that none of them are going in. His three is like busted. But those 3 guys, Grayson, Grayson, Bobby, and Javon, just not shooting enough open shots or not making them, that's been a huge issue for the Bucks. Like they need more minutes from players like Pat, like Brooke, who it's like, all right, I'll take the shot. But I think even Marjan, like, doesn't hesitate as much. He still travels once every game or two, but Marjan is more confident stepping into open threes than some of these than some of these other guys have been. I'm not saying play Mamu over Bobby, but to be clear, but it's like they all like you need to shoot open threes on a Giannis team.
I know somehow Grayson is taking less threes per game than he did last season.
It's ridiculous.
It doesn't make any sense. He's at 4.2 attempts per game compared to 5.9 last season. And even then we were like, okay, Grayson, you're not finding your shot very often. And it's not like you mentioned Bobby being a little hesitant because his shot's busted. Grayson's shooting 40.2% from 3 this season.
He's the best three-point shooter on the Bucks.
Yes, without a doubt. He's an absolute flamethrower from 3. Shoot the ball, Grayson.
Do you know?
Just do it. That's what you're there to do. Do the thing.
Would you know where he ranks in threes per game on this year's Bucks team?
Threes per game on this year's Bucks team? Probably like either 1 through 3, something like that.
6th.
Oh my God.
Drew Holiday, 6.1. 36%, not bad. Khris, 5.9. Hasn't played much. Kind of doesn't count. But still, when he has played, he shoots, even though he's at 26%. Brooke Lopez, 5.2, 40%. Pat Connaughton, already 5.2, 32%, despite playing 7 less minutes per game than Grayson. Joe Ingles, who plays 10 less minutes per game than Grayson, 4.3 to Grayson's 4.2.
I don't understand. Do you think it's something like the Bucks and Mike Budenholzer in Chris's absence were like, hey, we need a little more rim pressure? Like, that's something I've talked about in the past too. Like, the Bucks need a little more rim pressure. Hey, Grayson, can you go be that guy? Like, sure, that's valid, but that also shouldn't take away from what you're good at. Yeah. You know? Like, it's like the inverse of Giannis, like what we talked about. Like, hey, Giannis, like, if you're going to be a good mid-range shooter, that's awesome. That's going to help your game so much. You're going to be a good three-point shooter. Awesome. That's amazing. That's incredible for your game. But don't let it take away from your paint presence, because that's what you're the best at. That's the same thing for Grayson Allen. If he becomes a competent driver, which, again, to his credit, he's been better at this season. He's been getting better as the season goes on because he's been tasked to do that a lot more. To his credit, it's been going well. It's been going decently well. Don't let it take away from your shot. Because that's your bread and butter.
I can't imagine, with the way they emphasize letting it fly, that the Bucks would be on board with him turning down open jumpers. And that's what we're seeing. So I think, I'm sure they want him to be well-rounded, but I can't imagine that Mike Budenholzer is like, Grayson, stop taking open shots.
I think I saw this clip. I think it was a Boston reporter asked Mike Budenholzer what he has to do to get Grayson to shoot more shots, and he said, yell at him.
So, yeah, there you go. Guess where Grayson ranks per 36 on attempted threes per game?
Oh, yeah, this is going to be depressing. Like 6th or 10th. No, like 10th. Yeah.
Well, AJ Green is 1, so that maybe doesn't count. AJ Green, technically the best shooter on the Bucks, attempting 9.9 threes per game and shooting 47.4%.
Big Sam Merrill energy from AJ Green.
He's like 4 years younger, though, which is incredible.
He looks older, though, somehow.
Among real rotation players, Pat is first, 9.4 per 36. Again, like, he lets that thing go. That's what the Bucks need. Joe Ingles, Khris, Marjan, 7.7, 36.6%. Drew, Jordan Nwora, the dearly departed. He's fine. He just doesn't play anymore. Brooke Lopez and Wesley Matthews is attempting more threes per 36 than Grayson Allen. I'm sorry. Love both guys, kind of. That should never happen. That should never, ever, ever, ever happen. Wes plays less, so the number can get a little deflated. Wes Matthews should never be taking more threes attempted per 36 than Grayson Allen. It's disgusting.
No, absolutely not. Like Grayson, like I'm speaking to you personally here. Do what you're good at. Obviously, improve your game, but don't forget who you are.
Yeah. It's a problem that Javon and Bobby are 12th and 13th, too.
Oof.
Those are guys the Bucks also need to shoot. We're talking a lot about Grayson. Those guys need to shoot more, too. Proud of Giannis being 15th. Although everyone says he shoots too much. Only Serge and TA attempt less threes per 36 than Giannis on the Bucks.
I want TA to get that number up.
He is at 0.5, yet to make one. He did score, though.
Yes. I need him to get that number up. Let's. I think the Bucks honestly need to inject some TA sometimes.
I mean, certainly. I mean, they need someone who's not going to let him get punked.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think it's really funny, by the way, that Bud didn't put TA in garbage time against the Celtics because he's going to fight someone.
Yeah. I don't know. TA. I don't know.
I love him to death. Favorite
I
player
know
in the
that.
league.
I do know that. Will TA catch anyone else on the Bucks in scoring this season? He's got 7. Joe Ingles currently has 14. And then Sandman and AJ Green both in the 30s. It's going to be really tough.
That is tough. The only way that happens is like if not Mamu, but if AJ Green gets like released.
Yeah. Yeah, or if Ingles doesn't make it through the year, just because he's closer. Yeah. But I imagine Ingles will pick up some steam. You'd hope. And get up to Serge is at 62. He's the next lowest.
Serge has scored 62 points this season?
Yeah.
Go off, Serge. Proud of Serge for dunking on Kendrick Perkins, by the way.
Yeah, that ruled.
That was so good. Love you, Serge.
Shout out for Perk. Perk did an apology tweet, and then also right after did a "you don't want me to tell the true story of what went on" tweet. Like, you literally just a 2K character at this point. That's literally your job.
He's a character. But it looks like the Bucks, they'll try, like we mentioned up top, we're recording this Wednesday. They're going to try to get back on track today against the Bulls. It's an away game. What do we got next on the schedule? Friday, they've got the Wolves. So like you mentioned, it's a little bit of an easier stretch coming through now. You get Bulls, Wolves, Wizards, Raptors, Hornets.
I want to see all wins.
Yes.
These teams are bad.
They are bad. Like the Bulls are bad. Wolves are bad. Wizards are obviously bad. Toronto's bad compared to what we thought they were going to be.
What a shame.
I know. What a shame.
Oh, I'm so torn up about it, Rohan. And oh man, their fans noting that Nick Nurse, OG Anunoby has both of his thighs falling apart. Nick Nurse said 40 minutes, 44 minutes, 38 minutes, 46 minutes, all losses.
I'm seeing Raptors say it's turn on Nurse.
What a shame. What a shame.
I'm seeing it.
Maybe he can carry an oboe case instead of a guitar case with his stupid logo on it, and they'll be back on board. What a shame. Oh, you hate to see it.
You truly do hate to see it. Wait, I'm trying to...
Also, Rudy Gobert got outplayed by a Miami Heat two-way center the other day.
Oof. He
got owned by some... I don't even recognize the guy. Orlando Blackman, I think?
Oh, my goodness.
Which, not a Spike Lee character. I know it may sound like that. That is a random Miami Heat created player that is better than Rudy Gobert, or at least was for 30 minutes the other night.
For the remainder of this month, plus into January, I believe the Bucks only have 5 games against teams above 500.
Wow.
And that would be, and like the Knicks, the Pacers twice,
those would be good.
Nuggets, Cavs, and Pelicans.
Oh, fun!
Otherwise,
some fun games, but yeah, a lot of they need to bank some wins here.
You get 2 games against the Wizards, you get 2 games against the Hornets, you get 2 games against the Heat, you get the Hawks, you get the Pistons. Yeah. This is where the Bucks, this is where you need to make your push. This is where you need to feed up on easy wins, because this upcoming schedule is a cakewalk compared to what you just went through.
And get healthy. You should be able to bank wins and sit some guys and make sure you're ready, because it did look like they were running out of gas a little bit by the end of this run. So hopefully we can see a lot of wins and some 20-minute nights for Giannis.
So the Hornets game on the next Friday is going to be a little tough.
You talk about going up against a superstar. Gordon Hayward on Jan 6. Good luck.
It's going to be a show.
Good luck. Sorry, Andrew.
No, Andrew's converted now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all we have to get to today. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Eurostep here on the Eurostep Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you're listening to this podcast platform of choice, YouTube. Make sure you check out gspn.info for all the fun links. Am I missing any plugs here?
Take the survey. If you
Survey. Yeah, of course. Yeah, make sure you check out the survey. That can be found at gspn.info as well. Please take it. It's very informative for us, and it takes just a few minutes of your time, if that.
Yeah.
So please do that. It'll help us out a ton and help us make better content that you guys enjoy.
Exactly.
Pod random, and we will talk to you next time.